How's everybody doing? This is Abla Sebak from 974 Live, and I'm with...
This is G. Valentino. Today we are joined by someone very special. It was hard to describe him in just a few words. He's the Vice Chairman of the Canadian Qatari Business Forum. He is an inventor, he's a business owner, he's provided political strategy to US Congress. This is Zaid Al-Hamdan, and he's joining us on 974 Live. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Nice. So, what we're going to do, what's going to happen now is we're going to play a little word association game. Okay? Just get us warmed up. Abla and I are going to list a few words, and all you have to do, words or phrases, and all you have to do is say the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay?
Sure. Go.
Okay, 1. Investment.
Banking.
Smart. Discipline.
Hours.
Regret.
Chances.
Fear.
Non-existent.
Wow, that's strong, huh? Success.
Money.
I love this, man. G?
Good. Education.
University.
Happiness.
Family.
Nice. Leicester.
UK.
Future.
Empire.
Ooh. 974 Live.
Oh, that's a question. Yeah. I think of you and her. Good. I think of you two.
Good. Nice.
So now can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we start into our conversation?
Sure. So, as G mentioned, I'm the Vice Chairman of the Canadian Qatari Business Forum. This is a non-profit based in Montreal, and we're hoping to open up the counterpart in Doha in the coming weeks. It includes a prominent board of former diplomats, former ministers, government officials from both sides of the spectrum, from Qatar and Canada. And we're focusing really on enhancing trade relations between the state of Qatar and Canada. We believe, business is the first step. Working on small businesses, working on franchises, things like that. And that's a gateway to open up cultural cooperation,
Yes.
to open up, actually bringing the two peoples together.
Yes.
And that's why we chose to start with business, because that had the lowest barrier to entry.
Okay.
I want to maybe go back a little bit to what got me involved with, with
Politics,
politics, with everything like this, and it goes back to road safety. A few years back, I lost a number of friends to a road accident, a road safety traffic collision in Qatar.
So that's why you got into that business.
Yeah, and a lot of the Qataris that are viewing the show are gonna resonate with this. You go to any majlis, you go to any household, and you're gonna see that there was a person lost, 2 people lost to road safety collisions,
Yes.
and it was a problem that we were facing here. It's a problem around the world, but
Yes, it's everywhere. Yes, absolutely.
Small steps. You start
Yes.
with where you are, and I started researching and reaching out to people around the globe that were in this field. Road safety federations, associations, organizations. I came across a gentleman based in the U.S., an engineer out of Vegas, Nevada, and he had, Robert Allison, and he had the idea to connect between the ignition of a vehicle and the seatbelt, so the car cannot start until somebody puts the seatbelt on. The original idea needed, improvement. It was, it had wires, it was crude, it wasn't designed properly. I worked with Rob on different aspects. We tested different technologies because at the end of the day, we needed something that wasn't so visible, didn't have wires in it. We looked at Bluetooth, we looked at RFID, which is a radio frequency, and that's what we went with.
Just to jump in there, how old were you at this time?
Ooh, maybe 17.
17.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I'm really interested in knowing is a 17-year-old, one day he wakes up, obviously he's influenced by people around him being affected by these issues. So you take action, you go and find an inventor at the age that you are, such a young age. How did you connect with this guy? Like, how did that all come about?
So I'll tell you something, G. I kind of already had the mindset to begin with. So from a very young age, maybe even 15, I was into business. I was, importing and exporting things from China. It was small scale in the beginning, the USBs, the sunglasses with the headphones in them. Having that mindset, dealing with people internationally, that kind of helped me. And so when I saw this problem here, I thought to myself, okay, I've reached out to people overseas. Let's try and do that again. Let's replicate that, but this time for a social cause, not just a business.
Did you have any difficulties in doing that at the age that you were?
Of course, no. Like when I reached out to Rob the first time, Rob hung up in my face. I sounded too young. He didn't know anything about Qatar.
Yeah.
What did the Arab want? And I had to call him again and again and again and persuade him that why I wanted to work with him on this. Of course, no. I had called him 6-7 times at least before he listened out. He listened to me. And even then, he had his doubts. And what happened was, I said, Rob, listen, I'm going to go and look at the flight schedules. I'm going to be in the US in 3 days.
Wow. Consistent.
And within 4 days, I was in the US. And I sat down with his people. We had great conversations. And we actually signed our first agreement when I was in the US with him.
And your parents had no problem with you just taking a flight and going to America and signing a deal with someone you never met before?
I come from a family that's very supportive.
Wow, inshallah.
My father was part of a knowledge exchange program when I was young, and he went to Canada to work in Microsoft and HP, and moved back here in 05, 06, 04, around that time frame. And he realized, he saw the entrepreneurial spirit that I had from a young age, and he wanted to support any idea I came up with. And when I told him I want to do road safety, and I showed him the facts, I showed him the product, he was supportive.
So you actually did a study before you showed it to your dad?
Of course, yeah. The product, the implications, the business plan, everything.
Just a question. I'm sorry, dude. You're about to ask.
No, feel free.
I'll
leave. No problem.
No. I have one question. Do you say, in your opinion, do you think family's support is very important for a success of, let's say, a person your age at that time?
Family support is important. It's important to have the father figure, to have the family behind you. But at the same time, if that does not exist, it's not binary. If you don't have family support, it does not mean that you're not going to make it.
So still do it even if you have nobody supporting you.
Family support can help you, be it financially, be it morally, be it verbally. But even without that, having that in place, you can still pursue what you want to do.
Do you think you can be taught to be an entrepreneur?
Of course, especially nowadays, because people are coming up with all sorts of excuses. I don't have money, I don't have a mentor, I don't have
time,
resources, I don't have time. Exactly. In this day and age, you can set up companies remotely almost anywhere in the world, and it costs what you would spend in 2 or 3 dinners in Nobu. You can find products, you can work in e-commerce, you can drop ship, you can set up a website from A to Z, choose a product, have monthly costs that are like 2 or 3 cups of coffee. And you can start something like that. I'm tired of people saying, money is an excuse, because you can start with nothing. You can start with nothing.
Absolutely. And I have another question. Your friends, the people that were around you, obviously they were not focusing in the same thing you're focusing. Were you isolating yourself from these friends, or were you hanging out with elders that were thinking the same way you were thinking?
So both. First of all, social life was at about 0 for a period of time in my life, and that's because we're going out. What are the guys doing? We're going to a restaurant, we're going to a hotel, we're going to whatever, and I'd pack up my laptop and go stay somewhere alone and just work till midnight, 1, 2 a.m.
So you were isolating yourself at the time?
No, from 16 years old until today, those working until 2, 3 a.m., that's very common, alone. So that's the first part of your question. But the second part is, I did surround myself with people that were like-minded. People that, had goals, wanted to learn, wanted to do something. It doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurial, but people who want to, advance their education, advance spiritually. Exactly. Everybody has different goals.
Okay, so you're at this age and you're starting to show signs of like the entrepreneurial spirit, the kind of mindset that you need, the skill set that you need. Like the early signs of it. Now you've gone to America, you've met up with the investor. What happens after you've had those initial meetings and you've secured the patent? Like what happens next?
So basically, after we finalized the product, and I used my car, my personal car, as the prototype. Okay. I just installed it there, and we had my car open and closed maybe 6-7 times with some of the garages close to my house. And once I was confident with everything, I reached out to some organizations here, some decision makers in government, and of course they're very respectful and nice, and they like new ideas and innovations. But I didn't get the reaction that I was hoping for. I didn't get the quick response that I expected for a new product, and I decided to take a different route, and I moved towards the diplomatic sector. And I just started approaching embassies. I'd go to an embassy, meet with the ambassador. And I was surprised it wasn't that difficult. You just need to find the right key person there. And for me, it was secretary, the head of trade.
Out in Qatar?
In Qatar.
Okay.
They'll just go to the ambassador. Your Excellency, there's a young local guy here. He has a small business, but he also has a road safety idea. It's good for the government, good for the country. He wants to meet with you, and they'll sit down with me. And I really want to thank Ambassador Eric Chevalier. He's the former ambassador of France to Qatar. This guy was the first guy to really step up, and he had me sit down with him, took a video endorsing the product, speaking about road safety, put me in touch with the Federation International Automobile in France. It's a road safety organization. Put me in touch with several royal family members here directly. He'd call them up and say, Your Excellency, Your Highness, talk to this guy.
Wow.
He helped me out a lot. And he'd then put me in touch with other ambassadors. And before you knew it, we had maybe 6-7 countries on board, and they weren't small countries. Europe, America. That's when really I started getting the attention that I wanted, and I was contacted by several high-profile figures in government. I really want to thank Brigadier General Zaid Al-Hamdan, the former director of the traffic department. He was one of the first people to get on board. He had me come over to the traffic department and just show him the device, and
sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry. Did you have a team at that time, or was it just only you?
One lady.
That's it. So you were going to meetings by yourself with her, and you were just hitting embassy by embassy, and you did not quit.
Of course, yeah.
Was there any no's? Was there anyone saying, I'm not interested?
Of course.
But you still continued?
The embassies were the most supportive, because I wanted to say something. So the ambassador's job is local engagement. Mm-hmm. So, part of the job description of an ambassador, being the highest authority of their country in Qatar, is engaging with locals, community engagement, increasing trade. So that's why I got the most, it was very receptive. Mm-hmm. The reactions were great, the support was overwhelming. And we moved on to the traffic department, where Major General Mohammed Al-Kharji now, he endorsed the product. He had, tests run on the product. He had the consultant take a look at it, and they gave me written statements from the traffic department allowing me to sell it, recommending it for safety use. Okay. This was a big boost to me. I then moved to the National اللجنة الوطنية للسلامة المرورية, the National Committee for Traffic Safety, which is a separate entity under the Ministry of Interior. And this is where I met Brigadier General Mohammed Abdullah Al-Malki, who I want to thank a lot, because when I went to him, no phone calls, I just walked into the ministry and I saw him there. So I knocked on his door, and I'm a young guy, and I said, Brigadier General, I have an idea. And he said, listen, relax, come inside, sit down, have some coffee, let's talk.
They gave you the opportunity.
I explained everything to him, and he told me, I like this idea. Here's a letter of support from my organization.
Wow.
He signed it. And then he said, in a few weeks' time, there's going to be the International Traffic Safety and Medicine Conference in Qatar. It's going to be held here for the first time in the GCC. Mm-hmm. It's going to be under the patronage of the Prime Minister. And I'd like you to come, present what you've been doing, maybe get me some videos with the ambassadors, and, I want to support you. And that's what I started planning for. I got videos with a lot of bodybuilders. So I'd go to bodybuilders in the community, and I'll tie bodybuilding with road safety. And the message that we tried to bring across was, okay, I'm training, I'm eating 5 meals a day. One road safety accident could ruin my career. So we tied sports with that. We tied military with that. We're patriotic people here. People love the military, the police.
Yes.
I'd go to the internal security forces, get, a young lieutenant, get him to come on, talk about road safety. That's how we kind of, it was a grassroots movement. That's how we got the support we wanted.
This leads me to my next question, which is really, one day you're talking to ambassadors, one day you're talking to bodybuilders, you're hitting like all the different people in society, in the communities. Like, where's your communication skills coming from? Where have you developed this? And what strategies are you using to like really win these people on board, it's not only just proposing something, it's bringing them on your side and really putting them on your
So
team.
now you have marketing skills, and now you have communications.
And he's a brave guy because he walks into people's offices, right?
And we're talking about ambassadors and embassies, you guys. يعني PR, marketing, communication. What else, يعني? And how?
So I like dealing with people. As long as I can remember, you know, I'll try and make friends. If I see somebody in a gas station who looks friendly, I'll go, I'll talk to him. Washing my car at Wuqud, I see somebody washing his car, I'll approach him. We'll have a conversation. And I learn to even tell if they're interested or not. If I talk to him and his arms are crossed or he's not really into it, I'll thank you for your time. And sometimes, no, we talk and we speak. They're small, you know. Yeah. Everybody's cousin, and you know, you make friends. You learn how to communicate, and yeah, that's the strategy. Was really honesty and empathy. You know, when you approach people, you just be honest with them, and they wanted to get involved. It was a good cause.
So after your journey with you know the road safety, what got you into politics? Like there's this whole transition in between. How did it happen?
After getting the support from the various government officials and the ministries, and I was invited to the international the traffic أسبوع المرور الخليجي, the traffic week, the Gulf Traffic Week, which is held every year in Darb al-Sa'i. And you know, Major General Mohammed Al-Kharji was supportive of me. I brought a vehicle. I want to thank Abdullah Abdelghani and Toyota for actually giving me a new Land Cruiser to put on during that week. I installed the device in that, and we had the car there for every visitor that came in. And it started with Major General Zaid Al-Hamdan, who now we have a great relationship with, the Director General of Public Security, Chief of Police. And then on, maybe I think it was the last day or the day before, I get a call from the organizers in the traffic department, and they told me, listen, go to your car and get ready. And I said, why? They said, Sheikh is coming. And that's when His Excellency, the former Prime Minister, Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser bin Khalifa Al Thani, came in, and this was one of the first times I felt nervous. You know, my heart was in my throat.
Were you scared?
Very scared.
What did he say to you?
Very scared. He walked towards the vehicle, I remember, and he saw me standing there, and you know, my heart's pounding. So he looked at me. He's like, you know, show me what you have. I showed him a little bit about the device, and he said, the young guys are gonna hate you. I started laughing, and he was very friendly, very casual. I didn't get the military vibe, you know. We had military officials visiting, and even, you know, the officials would all be, you know, straight and formal. When the Prime Minister came, you know, he was fixing his little, he was walking in, he was joking with everybody. It was a great figure, and that was actually one of the things that really shaped who I am today, because from that day I thought to myself, if I could have a conversation with the Prime Minister and Minister of Interior on this level, then I'm no longer nervous to speak to anyone else. And the Prime Minister was a big supporter of this campaign, and you know, this could not have been possible without him, without the generals that work under him. And of course, I want to mention one more person who was instrumental in getting this road safety campaign off the ground, and it's His Excellency Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Thani bin Abdullah. He's the chairman of Asdan Holding Group, Qatar International Islamic Bank, Al Ahli Hospital, and he was the chairman of Vodafone during this period. And what happened was he got all four companies that I just mentioned to get involved as the sponsors and work with me on this road safety campaign. Eventually, I believe that it served its purpose. We raised awareness, we did grassroots movements in schools, universities, and that's when I started to move into different aspects of business with the network that I've established. And this started with, you know, dealing with the embassies on which companies they want to bring in from their respective countries, and you know, connecting them to local partners. Sometimes working with them myself, working with them with people in my network, and things just started to grow. And it quickly went from business, where I'd established a company, where I've established partnerships in various industries, and then it became something more, where I found a passion for political strategy, for PR, for reputation management, and
crisis management.
Exactly. And that's when I started working with you know, different ambassadors, and it would start with, you know, various things from you know, getting them to go and donate blood at certain times, getting them to visit local weddings, getting them to engage with the community. And they were very supportive. I loved working with them. This was a great addition to my career as well. And that's when I moved on as well, and it became more international, and I started reaching out to. I was contacted by, and I also reached out to various political figures around the world. This includes high-ranking ministers, state ministers in different countries around the world. This included congressmen in the U.S. and congressional candidates that I've worked very closely with, and I'm proud to call friends. And that's where we are today. And I love what I do.
You achieved quite a lot in quite a small space of time. You've got a very strong network. You've done things in business. You've invented things. How do you maintain like your humility? And how do you not fall into the trap of buying into like your ego and things like that?
This goes back to something I've learned over the course of my life, and dealing with various people in various social categories. The higher I went up the food chain, the more humble I found the people to be. I'd go and I'd sit down with people. Their net worth will shake the ground that they walk over. And they're in very regular cars. They don't have secretaries outside their offices. They're dealing with everybody face to face. They're so nice, so humble, so kind. And then sometimes you see people that are in positions not even close to that, and they deal with people in a certain way that I don't tend to agree with. And I took these people as my role models. Dr. Sheikh Khalid bin Thani, and he chairman of Vodafone, has done holdings, Vodafone previously, has done holdings, QIIB, Al Ahli Hospital. I went to meet with him, and this was the first time I saw him. I went outside and I sat in the waiting room, and for example, we'll say the meeting was at 11. At 11:05, he walks outside, he looks at me, he's like, Zaid, I'm so sorry I'm late.
Wow.
I'm like, it's fine, Sheikh. Fixes his ghitwa. He's like, do you want to sit down in the waiting room or do you want to come to my office?
Wow.
I said, wherever you want. And he said, we'll go to my office. We go to his office. He does not sit behind his office desk. He doesn't want to give off that vibe of I'm behind my big desk.
Yeah.
He sits down on a chair beside me and he listens.
That's
he tells me, what are you doing? I told him road safety. I explained the device. I explained the system. He said, okay, where are you now? What are you doing next? And I told him, there's the International Traffic Medicine Conference coming up. This is going to be under the patronage of the Prime Minister and Minister of Interior, former, His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Nasser. And, they're going to need some videos, high-level videos, production. He said, okay, we're going to fund everything. We'll take care of it for you. So, to your question, I've learned from people that I've seen, people that I look up to and I think I'll always look up to, and how they deal with everybody.
Just moving on now, let's make the transition into some of your involvement in politics, in terms of some of the kind of advisory stuff that you've done, dealing with US Congress. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I've always had a passion for communication, for, as I mentioned, reputation, personal image. And it started locally with, ambassadors in Qatar. And I worked with some of the ambassadors that I already had a working relationship with. I started working with them on their personal image, on their social media presence, on their community engagement. And this started to expand beyond, the local spectrum. And this is where I started looking at different countries around the world. And this, includes countries in Europe. And the focus for me was the US, obviously. I have a lot of ties there. I've visited many times. I have a business there. And I started getting involved with congressional campaigns for various districts and counties. And the involvement, or the scope of my work ranges from, first of all, it's political strategy. What comments are going to resonate with your party and with your voters, with your district. The second thing is, and I've always been an avid reader. I've been writing for a long time, so I have a certain thing with words. I know how to choose the proper phrases that I think are going to have the most meaningful impact with your particular voter base. And I'd start fact-checking tweets, social media posts. This was really how I got involved with these congressional candidates, with congressmen, and this expanded rapidly into various things. And as a foreign national, there's laws regulating my involvement with congressional campaigns. So I'm not allowed to make any monetary contribution to congressmen, even though I would have loved to for some of them. I'm not allowed to receive any payments from these congressmen. but the FSC, the Federal Election Committee, has ruled that a foreign national may volunteer his time and skills and voice his personal political views. So that's exactly what I've been doing. It's all been completely, there has been no compensation whatsoever in order to comply with the FSC regulations. But it's been a learning experience for me. It's been, working with people on that caliber of the political level of the political spectrum. It's been great, and it's been life-changing for me.
The question is, how do you stay relevant? Like, you're at the moment based in Qatar. Mm-hmm. So how are you advising these people in many different contexts, in many different locations, geographically,
sure,
and facing totally different situations in their countries?
Sure. So, with globalization, with technology, with the modern era, physical presence and physical distance is getting less and less important for any sort of operation and work. And, especially with the pandemic we're going through right now, you're going to see remote work is going to become more relevant. People are going to focus on productivity from home and from working remotely. We've seen this with some of the biggest tech companies around the world. The CEO of Twitter, Jack, said he's going to be allowing most of his non-essential staff to work from home indefinitely. A lot of companies followed.
Google as well.
Exactly. So, to answer your question, I have maybe 6, 7, 8 screens open in my office. Different news channels, different Twitter feeds, different social media accounts, and you're looking at what's happening there. And like I said, with utilizing modern day technology, it's almost as if you're there. And with phone calls, with Zoom, with Skype, the physical aspect of being present has not been an issue for me.
So how did you get this position to be a vice chairman of the Canadian Qatari Business Forum? How were you elected for it, or how were you chosen? You're only 27 years old, yani.
So I've had a great relationship with Canadian policymakers, with former ambassadors, with businesses across the spectrum in different industries in Canada. And what happened was, this was a group of individuals whom I hold in very high regard in esteem, and I respect them greatly. And they actually reached out to me, and Ambassador Ferdi Kirshkov, he's the chairman. He served as Canadian ambassador to various countries around the world. He served as a personal representative to the Canadian Prime Minister. Him and a gentleman named Yasser, who was a North African, also based in Canada, in Montreal. They were the ones that reached out to me, and we spoke about the bylaws, and I was nominated. I am proud to share I'm proud to work with a very diverse, very smart group of individuals from both countries. We have Ambassador Robert Collette, who was the Canadian ambassador to Indonesia and to Switzerland. He was also the Canadian Prime Minister's personal representative for French-speaking countries and languages. Miss McLean, she was Chris McLean. She's the chief editor for one of Canada's largest security and defense magazines, Frontline. An advisory board member with us is Sheikha Haya Al-Thani. She's a very good friend, Georgetown graduate, extremely smart, very, very sharp.
And you guys are a whole team together in this.
Exactly.
Okay. And what is it exactly? What is the Canadian Qatari Business Forum? Like, how do you help people? What is it? Franchising, businesses?
Sure. So as I mentioned, briefly before, we're focused on enhancing trade relations between the two countries. We're not a governmental entity per se, but we work closely with governmental organizations in both countries. And this ranges over a very there's a broad term to cover what we do. So this involves foreign direct investment, where we look at Qataris who want to invest in Canada. We look at Canadians who want to invest in Qatar, be it individuals or companies. We look at franchises that want to expand. We look at distribution, import, export, and we look at small to medium enterprises, which has been, the backbone of what I think our forum has been.
You provide them consultation. Do you help them with their feasibility study?
Exactly, market analysis, matchmaking, pairing them with the local partners. Sometimes they work with groups owned by us where it makes sense.
But you help them with sponsors as well and everything?
Exactly. And sometimes, we can advise a company that it doesn't make sense for them to pursue this opportunity. Your product is not needed in this particular market. Wow. And, we save them a lot of time and effort in terms of legal fees, in terms of, going back and forth to actually understand the market. That's our role.
You sound like a very busy guy, to be honest, with a very extensive network, very strong network. So you're balancing, maintaining these relationships, obviously socializing is part of it. You've got your business, you've got your work that you do. How do you manage your time? What does your morning look like?
Yes.
Any tips and tricks you can share to the audience?
We try our best. So, first of all, I want to kind of say that there's no blanket advice that you can just give out to everyone.
Yep.
And I believe, depending on your personal goals, you have advice that's, focused on yourself. I encourage everybody to seek mentors, speak to people that have life experience, learn from them. When you talk about mornings, I've read everywhere that a lot of the tech billionaires wake up early in the morning. And I've read just, equally that a lot of them don't wake up early in the morning. And it really comes down to what your work day looks like. Do you have work in the morning? So do you work with the US where you're staying up till 2, 3 a.m. every day?
Oh my God, I was just talking about this before you came to the show with the guys.
What's that waking up late?
No, I was saying before I used to wake up at 11 in the morning because of the collection agency and everyone talks about money in the afternoon. And then now that I started working in America and I'm into this business that has to do with America, now I stay up till 3 in the morning, but because I have to adapt to the timing here, I wake up back again at 6.
So it depends who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. The US stock market opens, I believe, at 2 p.m. Qatar time.
Yeah.
And okay, so if you're just a trader, you don't need to wake up early. But some advice I do have is to focus on yourself as well. So you never stop learning. I saw this from one of those I think his name is Gary, one of those social media...
Gary V.
Gary V. Shout out to Gary V. I like him.
I like him too.
I like him. I don't usually follow these people, but Gary said, there's nothing wrong with getting a part-time job, even if it's a low-paying job. What I am going to advise you is try and get a part-time job related to what you want to do.
I wanted to tell you, during this time, a lot of people, once Corona started and everyone had to stay home, a lot of us spend hours and hours on Netflix and watching Ramadan series. I realized that every day I was watching a few hours of TV and that used to never happen. And you're absolutely right. But how can someone right now at home start a business, let's say, e-commerce?
For example, there's a lot of websites that help you do something called dropshipping. And, it's... you can just Google dropshipping, and it's basically what you do is you establish your own website, and you deal with third-party subscribers like Shopify. And what happens is you choose your products from the suppliers like Amazon or Alibaba. You list their products on your website, and you don't actually hold stock, you don't hold inventory, you have no logistics.
But you still make money.
You're just the front end, you're just the website, and whatever traffic you can direct to that website, you make money off of it.
A lot of people are looking into that right now.
Of course, no. With what's going on right now, I see that the entire, the way business is conducted around the world is going to change. SMEs are getting hit very hard around the world. People are going to be looking at e-commerce, they're going to be looking at applications, or they're going to be looking at stable jobs with very large organizations that can weather through this pandemic.
In this region, a lot of the habits of the customers are like something that you might do on the weekend is go to the malls, things like this. How do you think it's going to impact the people specifically in the region that we're in, like moving forward?
So I'll kind of answer you first in broader terms. So because I think that the consumer behavior is going to be correlated around the world. Even when this pandemic is over and it's declared that it's safe for us to go out again, people are not going to feel safe for a while. People are going to still, they're going to social distance, they're going to have masks, they're going to try their best to cook at home more. Yeah. So I see entertainment being one of the last things to actually come to where they were before. Maybe restaurants and these things are, in my opinion, more essential. They're going to bounce back quicker.
Do you think people are still going to feel safe having dinner at a restaurant, for example?
Eventually it's human nature. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. But how long will this take? Will it be a few months? Will it be a year? Who can survive and weather through the crisis until then?
Did you ever multitask? For example, right now, me personally, I'm working on so many different projects. A lot of people tell me, Abla, what you're doing is wrong. Focus on one thing, excel, and then focus on the second thing. But I feel like I can actually do so many things at the same time and excel in all of them. Do you think that's possible or no?
Again, I want to go back to my previous statement and say there's no blanket advice, and I'll tell you why. So some people, their minds, function differently, and it's better for them to focus on one task at a time. Okay. Some people, like people with ADD and people with, faster minds, people that can focus on many things, people that are better at multitasking. Yeah. Statistically, women are better at multitasking than men. But,
you go, women. Mm-hmm.
I have a very good friend of mine, and I work very closely with him. He's a partner, and he's always, grabbing me and forcing me to focus on one project at a time, and it just doesn't work with me. It's just the way my mind operates. Like right now, I'm sitting down, I'm speaking on 974. Half of my mind is in the U.S. I'm waiting for the markets to open, and that people function differently. And that's why I said it's better for you to really seek advice that's personalized to you.
I feel like we've covered a lot. We've covered like stuff from the past, some very, very good experiences that you've had. You've said a lot of thank yous to a lot of people who have helped you along the way as well. You've talked about your network, you've talked about the stuff with politics. You talked about being a vice chairman at the moment with the Canadian Qatari Business Forum. What's next? That's where I want to go. What's happening next? What's the plans?
So
and before we do that, are you one of those people who are like, I can't say everything too much, I like to keep my cards close to my chest? For different reasons.
That's
people have
G-style
different
right
reasons. Or are you just, listen, this is what I want to do, by this time it's all planned out and you don't want to share?
Targets and goals.
I don't mind sharing, because for me right now I'm still learning. I think I'm always going to be learning. I'm advancing my my political strategy, my consultation, my private businesses. I believe I will remain in the private sector because I believe that's where I have the most freedom. And I'm not being biased when I say this, but the efforts I've seen from His Highness's office, the Emir, from Prime Minister, from the Minister of Transport, and the various governmental organizations, with the Qatar Business Incubation Center, with Qatar Development Bank, they're providing almost all of the tools necessary for somebody to come in with the next big idea and start it. They're helping you with business plans, they're helping you with funding, and I really think people, locally, because this isn't just limited to Qataris, this is anybody living here can apply. They really need to take advantage of this.
That's true. Actually, I've heard about that before, and we were looking into a project, an idea, and we wanted to go to them, but we got scared. We're like, oh, we don't know how are we gonna do that? How are we gonna reach them? How do we contact them? What do we do? Do they need us to be Qatari? But no.
They're very friendly. You can just set up an appointment with them, and they'll actually walk you through the process.
Wow.
I'm talking out of experience from friends, first-hand accounts that was given to me.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys for
Thank
having
you
me.
so
I
much.
think there's
for
been
your
a lot
time,
of
really.
lessons, a lot
Yes.
of sharing your experiences is really, like, I'm sure the audience has taken a lot away from it. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And it was a pleasure, really, to have you.
Pleasure's mine.